some hot sauce here. So this one is good.
Nice.
I like
With
costumes
the
like this
creepy
that are
nun.
and the creepy nun. I like costumes like this that are big and bulky. Um, and then this is just an array of people. Um, we had this too. This is, I guess this would be a take on like a Hugh Hefner Playboy playmate situation. So I thought that was somewhat funny.
Yeah.
Did you want to skip
Oh, there's a
to?
baby too.
Oh, yep. The baby's
She's
coming.
holding a baby. I just realized that. That's hilarious.
And then of course, like an epic Halloween moment is always going to be the late Hugh Hefner. Oh, Anna
Mm-hmm.
Nicole Smith's even in this picture.
Yeah, Anna Nicole Smith.
Which
Yeah.
is quite intriguing. Where do you want to go? Do you want to look at the latest celebrity Halloween costumes, or do you want to talk about some great memories you had even with Hugh Hefner? It makes it sound like
Oh,
there's
I mean,
something else
I
happened.
worked at
Sorry.
Playboy. I worked at Playboy for 5 years in my early PR career, and Playboy was notorious for having epic Halloween parties. And there were some great costumes, and the girls always went all out and had some really fun costumes. Holly, Bridget, and Kendra were living there throughout my tenure, and they really got into it and had fun. And there was always an epic haunted house on the grounds, and they did like a front lawn cemetery. They, the decorations and all of that were really, really fun. And I had some great memories and some fun stories from my time there.
Yeah.
That I had my first Neil Patrick Harris encounter at the Playboy Mansion.
We've mentioned before, like where why do you like Neil Patrick Harris? You're like, well, once when I was working for Playboy for Hugh Hefner, like at the Playboy Mansion, you were there and you greeted them and you just kind of developed a rapport. So yeah.
Well, I've always like been a fan of his. Like I was a fan of his on Doogie Howser when he was young, and then when he kind of made that hilarious comeback in the Harold and Kumar movies, I've just always had such great respect for him and his career, and he's like always seemed like such a nice guy. And my first no, it was my second Playboy Mansion party. My second Playboy Mansion party that I was working, and he was there in these like elaborate costumes with he and his husband David, and they always do elaborate costumes. And now with the kids, it's like these family ordeals, and he had these great costumes, and that was the first time I like dared to go up and chit chat with him, and it was really fun.
Other Playboy Mansion Halloween parties, people that you met. You also ran into who else?
Yes, Captain America himself. So if you're watching or listening audibly, this is a photo of me with Chris Evans and with Hugh Hefner's son Cooper. As a matter of fact, it's the three of us in this picture. And this was early. This was probably around the time that the first Captain America movie had come out, and he was hanging out at the mansion. He's such a nice guy. So I was obsessed with Chris Evans way before everybody became obsessed with him on social media now. So
you're like
guys are
you're like a
late to the game.
tastemaker. Yeah, you're in it.
But I met him for the first time there. So, and I actually introduced him to Hef. And when I saw him after that, he was like, "Oh, thank you so much for hooking that up and all of that." So that was
while we're talking about Halloween, this great known Halloween party at the Playboy Mansion, everyone talks about it. Kellie got to be there. Do you have any words that you want to say in terms of like maybe has Hef gotten a bad rap, over the years? Is there anything you wanted to kind of make mention of? Because I feel like your experience was always so good there, but then again, you're a great worker. You got a straight head on your shoulders, and you mixed work with fun, and I think it's been a good experience for you. But what do you think just about reputation and what people think when they think, ooh, the Halloween party, what happened?
Well, I think that everybody's experience is their own, and it's all different, and I can only speak about mine. And I worked there, like I said, for 5 years when I was in my mid to late 20s, and I worked directly for him, but I had a professional relationship with him and with the girls and his kids, and I did a lot of personal stuff for him as far as like publicity and PR stuff. But my experience was really good. I mean, there was this one time when he got mad at me for something, and then I was like afraid of him, and not because he did anything in it, but he got really upset. We were like out at this club, which why was he out at clubs at like his
Why
age?
was he
But
out
whatever.
at clubs till the end? Yeah.
We were at a club and there was like a misunderstanding about something, and he like yelled at me about something, and I had just started working there and I was young and I was mortified. And I fixed it and everything was fine, and I couldn't really tell if he was mad because he was kind of laughing while he was mad, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, this isn't okay. And so I would like hid from him for like a year. I would just always
Oh,
like leave the room and never be around, and I never I was just always trying to stay out of his way. But it turned out to be fine. And I ended up like planning his wedding. We became, it was all
yeah.
good. But that was kind of my one thing where I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But things happen. And like I said, it was like a misunderstanding, whatever. But
And that
the
also might have
parties
been
were
a
always good. No,
that
go
that
ahead.
might have been a transitional part too between where you were at in your publicity career towards like getting with working there is such a big, a
Oh
big step.
yeah. It
So
was
it's probably that too.
I was very young, and in my career, it was early, and I was still kind of like getting the groove of things, and all of that. So I probably shouldn't have been alone with him at this club. Had never, never going out with him before,
Yeah.
and I think they kind of like threw me out there a little too early. I don't think I was really ready for it as much as I thought I was, clearly, but it all worked itself out. But the parties themselves were always fun. I mean, people got, a little crazy and out there, but I never really saw anything way out of the ordinary. I mean, I saw some people, there were like some people that had, they would be put in like these side tables in these little private areas. And um I would kind of interacted with some, high profile people and stuff that I personally thought might have been a little high on life or a little high on something, but I never really saw what some people have described as like, people like doing drugs and doing all this. And I mean, that could have been the way it was way before my time when I wasn't there. I don't know, but I never really saw that.
Yeah.
And I was like a spy, always kind of, walking and looking and checking on everything because we had to, we couldn't have that because there was so much more press on it, and with social media and like different things, so we kept a close eye on that, and I never really saw that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did hear stories like Dave Navarro told me a story once where he got kicked out of the Playboy Mansion for doing drugs,
Mm,
and he was on the do not admit list, so he had to do an apology, send a letter to Hef, and really kind of like take
mm.
responsibility for that to be able to come back. He told me that story himself, so
I
I
I
don't
ma-
know, like, yeah.
yeah, I imagine it to be one of the things where maybe in the 90s it was a little more rambunctious than social media era where you were kind of having to monitor
I would
stuff, but
think
at the
maybe
same
more in the '70s too, because that was
right.
kind of, like, I mean, because I think he got the Playboy Mansion in LA, like, in the early '70s.
Mhm.
So, when everything kind of, was really at its prime, was could have been when a lot of that stuff was really
Yeah.
kinda happening, but the behind closed door stuff and all that, obviously, I don't know
Yeah.
any
I
of
imagine him to be the thing is like what people forget is everyone is sort of well from publicity too. You're branded as a thing. Like
that. Right.
nobody is exactly that all day long. It's
Mhm.
what you're going to see is the robe made sense, the several girlfriends, it all made sense, but that was the image and the marketing. So, you don't really know exactly, how people live.
It was a
Uh
very interesting experience, and
yeah.
for me, he was one of the most intelligent and cultured people I'll probably ever have the pleasure of interacting with, ever. I mean, there were so many things that he was involved in aside from the magazine and aside from his persona and all of that, just with history of human rights and women's rights and all these different things that people don't know about. And there's a really great documentary that was being made while I was there that's called Hugh Hefner, Playboy and Rebel. And it's really interesting because it delves in more into the humanitarian stuff and all of that. And I mean, that doesn't, and again, it doesn't change anybody's experience, that might have had a less than stellar experience there, and all of that. I never want to take that away from anyone. Everyone's experience is theirs, and mine just happened to be different. And again, but I was there on a professional capacity. I was never there personally, so I don't know any of that.
Yeah.
But it just really is interesting to know when you want to really talk about someone, then know all the sides, like get all the facets and see it.
Yeah.
Like the good stuff doesn't negate the bad stuff, it just kind of balances it out. And
Yeah.
depending on, your interaction and what happened for you, then that's really
Yeah.
all,
And for the most part, I'm also saying, what an epic way to celebrate a Halloween. You know,
Yeah.
like if you're gonna do it, you celebrate it kind of big, and it doesn't get any bigger than a
Mhm.
Hugh Hefner Halloween Playboy Mansion party, really of that time.
Right. I
Shall
mean,
we?
people are trying to replicate it. Yeah. And there was some
Yeah.
great Halloween parties, over the weekend. So let's look at, some costumes that
All
for like
right.
celebs like out and about.
Okay, so this is again, if you're audibly listening, I don't know what to tell you. iTunes, or Apple Podcasts rather, Spotify, come on over to YouTube. Difficultpodcasters.com is where it's at. Can I tell you, before we look at celebrity costumes, I have to let you know, we are so thankful for Viridian Row. So Viridian Row, where creativity never goes out of style. This is oh, look at viridianrow.com is the website. If you want to order something there, you can. And we're just displaying some of the items that they have. And really, Viridian Row was the first powered by Viridian Row for our podcast. So the first people that took a support in what we're doing is them. So go to their Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram and buy their
Yes.
shit.
And they got me, Halloweened up today.